Welcome back, Truth Seeker. The big news story today: Donald Trump expected to turn himself into the Fulton County Jail as Rudy Giuliani did yesterday. And somebody who's been in the community for a long time, Zenith of the Alpha, he pointed out that it's interesting that today, the day that Trump chose to turn himself in, he had Monday through Friday to do it. He chose this Thursday. It's interesting that today is the anniversary of Pluto being demoted as a planet. So today is actually known as Pluto Demotion Day. And remember, there used to be 9 planets, now there's 8. And of course, Kobe Bryant Day, it's the 8th month. Kobe was 824. Anyhow, Donald Trump turning himself in on Pluto Demotion Day on this date that's written 24/8, a bit like 248. And as another person in the community pointed out, from the day that Trump became president-elect to today is 2,480 days later, 248, a bit like the date. We're going to look at how all these things that could be coincidental are probably not, especially since Pluto relates to the word plutocracy, which relates to being governed by the wealthy. And think about Donald Trump, a man now in government who's known as the wealthy. So we're going to bring this all together. If you've read my first book, Letters and Numbers, you can get the ebook form of this. But the first book's a big book packed with information. In that book, we talk about Donald Trump a lot, a million other things, including also in this book is how Pluto was made a planet in 1930, the same year that Walt Disney invented the character Pluto. And the first cartoon that Pluto appears in, it came out August 6th, 1930. It was called The Chain Gang. And of course, the Chain Gang has to do with prison. And in the Chain Gang, Mickey Mouse is in prison. So I want to bring all this together through this story about Donald Trump today. All these things that seem like they're scattered pieces, not really related. Let's look at this through the lens of gematria and see if we're just, if we're just connecting things that aren't there, or if it seems like something's going on, and maybe Disney is more than just a company. For people who don't know, look into the company Disney. I mean, Disney owns so many things. Disney's bigger than most nations. But again, let's just put all this together and see how it comes together. Okay, so again, August 24th, 2006, that was the day Pluto was demoted. No longer the 9th planet. Now there's only 8 planets. Again, a plutocracy is when the rich govern. Donald Trump, a rich man. But then again, everyone in D.C. is pretty much owned and operated by dollar bills and the rich. So, again, it was 1930 that Pluto was discovered as a planet, and there's always been that point made about how the planet Pluto, the shading of it, it almost looks like the head of Pluto from the Disney cartoons. When you look at that, the way that lighter area is on the planet's surface, as it's always been presented to us, kind of reminds of Pluto's head. And this has been pointed out by many people, but we're going to further this observation about Pluto's discovery, the only planet ever discovered in the United States of America and discovered in Flagstaff, Arizona, not that far from Disneyland. But again, the cartoon and the discovery in 1930. So I got some pesky fruit fly in here all of a sudden. I haven't even seen any fruit flies. Why in here? Anyway, from Pluto's discovery to its demotion in 2006 was 76 years later. 76 years later, 1930 to 2006. So 76 years after becoming a planet, no longer. And notice how in gematria, Disney equals 76. Disney is 76. Disney's show business. Disney is Hollywood. So is Donald Trump. In the most simple cipher, if you're here, just the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, up to Z, the 26 letters, 26. As you see there, D is the 4th letter, I is the 9th, S is the 19th. Added up, Disney, 76, all the letters. There are 3 other related ciphers you want to know. The reverse alphabetic order, and then the alphabetic order forwards and in reverse, but with numerology applied. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse with numerology, Donald John Trump is 76. And again, we've talked about many a ritual, Donald John Trump in 76. It's just, this seems to be the latest. Now hear how these things align. And remember, Walt Disney was a member of De Molay. And De Molay connects to the Knights Templar, and the Templar connects to the Catholic Church. And the modern military order of the church is the Jesuits, who have the Templar cross in their logo. And again, the history of the Illuminati, established in 1776 by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. And then 64 days later, America's established, like the 64 spaces on the chessboard, like how Trump's Jesuit education began in 64 at Fordham. Anyhow, so far, I think the point's being made clear. And the point I made in my book about Pluto in the United States of America is that Pluto was discovered again in Arizona, the only planet ever discovered in the U.S., where Walt Disney was born. But what is America really? You know, is it the story we've been told? Anyhow, Pluto has that gematria of 84 like Arizona. And if you take the alphabetic order with numerology, United States of America is 84. Again, in the same cipher as Pluto in Arizona, Jesuit is 84. Actually, let me just pull up the calculator and make a point about Pluto, because, again, Pluto makes his debut in the 21st Disney cartoon, The Chain Gang, where Mickey Mouse goes to prison. But you see how, again, Pluto's 84, like we just talked about. With the alphabetic order and numerology, it's 21. With the reverse alphabetic order and numerology, it's 24, like how it got demoted on the 24th. But again, Pluto makes the debut in the 21st Disney film, The Chain Gang. And think about what Trump's in trouble for. You know, in Georgia, it begins on January 1st, 2021, the first day of the year 21. January 6th, 2021. Again, 21 is the 6th triangular number. For people who weren't here then, the last time I had any success in getting views on this channel, again, I haven't been able to get 100,000 views for a long time, which was something that was achieved a lot back in 2016 and 2017. We get upwards of 1 million views. But the last time I got 100,000 views was my videos saying what would happen on January 6th. And they didn't get 100,000 views until the days after January 6th, because exactly what I projected was exactly what happened. And again, because we understood how it was all simulated at Jesuit Georgetown. It's not because we're prophets, it's just because we're following what they're doing with the numbers. Simulating the Civil War on a date written 6/1 when the Civil War began in 1861. Anyway, who's running this nation? What is this nation really? I'm trying to paint the picture of the Illuminati, the U.S. in 1776, things like Disney, you know, that are bigger than life. I mean, people just still associate him with the children's movie, but Disney owns like everything. You know, they own the sports station that's broadcasting your Super Bowl. That's why every quarterback's saying they're going to Walt Disney World after they win the Super Bowl, or they're going to Disneyland. But okay, again, Disney, Illuminati, and in the same cipher, you see how Pluto's 84 and 21. So is Jesuit, 84 and 21. You know, most Jesuit day of the week, Sunday. 84-21. We saw what they just did in California with the first storm of its kind down near Disneyland in 84 years. And the flooding began in parts of California 84 days before the Superior General's birthday, the leader of the Jesuits. And Superior General is also 84. Again, weather warfare admitted to a long time ago. You know, weather warfare had it hinted to in these children's movies. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. That's what Maui got. They just called it the blowtorch winds instead. They didn't get the meatballs. They got the blowtorch, which is all numerically coded out as we've been covering. But yeah, other things that stand out about this Chain Gang film. that Pluto made the debut in. Chain Gang's got the 64 and 46. Again, we're in the time of number 46. Again, 64. Chessboard. Trump's Jesuit education. Biden, Mr. 64 himself. Joe Biden equals 64, like Chain Gang, being in Maui for the 64th birthday. 13 days after it burned, when the 13, or the Committee of 13, essentially hijacked Hawaii back in 1893. From Pluto being discovered a planet, the anniversary of that is February 18th, to the demotion August 24th, 187 days later, or a total span of 188 days. Both numbers significant. Again, 188 is Bavarian Illuminati, which was founded by a Jesuit, or member of the Society of Jesus. And Society of Jesus has that 187, like Washington, D.C., again, like George Washington, like Holy Roman Empire. Again, all these 187s. Big number. Donald Trump's GOP convention in Cleveland on 18/7, and then inaugurated in D.C. 187 days later. Trump, Jesuit educated. So that's interesting. And then let's not forget Trump's in the Illuminati card game, as is Hillary Clinton, who he defeated. Today, the expected surrender, the 24th day of the 8th month, President Donald Trump, 248, 24/8 date. Again, since the November 8th, 2016 election to today, 2,480 days later. It's also 81 months, like President Trump and President Biden equal 81. Like Biden supposedly got a record 81 million votes. You run it the other way, both President Trump and President Biden are 72, and Trump's turning himself in on his 72nd day of his age. And again, Jesuit order equals 72 as well. The sun moves 1 degree on the astrological wheel every 72 years. The Catholic Church, the Jesuits, a sun cult. Rituals and time synced up with the calendar that's theirs, that's based on the sun. And you know what? I've said a lot today. All of this might be too much for your friends and family to wrap their head around. But maybe if you just keep sticking with all the 60s, it's nonstop with the 60s in the lead up to the 60th presidential election, where Trump sacrificed his ex-wife 45 years after their marriage, like he was number 45, but sacrificed her exactly 60 weeks into the Jesuit Ignatian year, and in the lead up to the 60th election. Well, look at the latest. The new attorney that Trump has in Atlanta, Steven Sato, is 60, like Donald Trump. And remember, there's this big relationship with 4 and 60. Again, there's 4 heads on Mount Rushmore. They're each 60 feet long. What we've been talking about with Kobe and Moses Malone and Daryl Dawkins, and 4 and 60, and what might happen to Jordan 4 years later. 4's also got the 48, like Donald Trump, like Illuminati. But the 4 in the 60 is a big one. Trump just got his 4th indictment in the 4th state, Georgia. And the news broke that that was likely coming on the 60th day of his age, as we covered. So, and let's not forget that the word indictment itself is 60. And it's also 48, as we just talked about. And again, he gets the 4th in Georgia, 460. With regards to Atlanta, it also has the 48. Atlanta's also got the 120 and 69, like Illuminati. The Illuminati was founded on the 1st day of the 5th month. If you had 1 through 5 or 1 through 15 together, a bit like the date 1/5, the 1st of May, when the Illuminati was founded. Illuminati 12069, like Atlanta. 120 is the 15th triangular number, meaning if you had 1 through 15, it equals 120. Again, it goes back to the 1st day of the 5th month. So anyway, just why Atlanta? Why Atlanta, the city on the 84th meridian, for this ritual with Pluto and plutocracy and the Jesuits and the history of what this nation really is, and how it's like we're all under a Disney magical spell that's being waged by a code within language where we use spells, the word to describe making words, or also casting magic. And Disney's all about the magic. And magic equals 33 for the record, like Atlanta's on the 33rd parallel. But yeah, just coming back up to the Trump thing. Today, his name fits since the election, the one that he won, the 95. Again, the Jesuits, to counter the 95 Theses. Maui, Hawaii, 95, just burned up 95 days before the Superior General's birthday. 292 in President Donald Trump. We just had the Titan's father's home explode at the address 292 days after the son's birthday, who got the house for the father. The $3 million house as he enters his third season wearing number 3. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. This like religious wickedness, like everything inverted. Everything's biblical and a sick joke. President Donald Trump also won 12, just like the name Donald himself. He won the election right after the 112th World Series, and then he hired one of the Cubs management for part of his administration because they just won the World Series, the 112th. Catholicism equals 112, like Donald, like mathematics, like 1 + 1 is 2. Like these people are just adding it up each day and landing the next ritual. Here's what it adds up to today. Okay, this is the day he's going to surrender. This is the day we're going to do this. Again, the 81 months later too matters because President Biden and President Trump, yesterday they had the police scare in Pittsburgh, 81 weeks after the bridge collapsed when Biden was in town. Remember how the bridge collapsed on 128? The bridge collapsed on 128, and there was a whole bunch of 128s in it, but just bridge collapsed 128 as Biden was in town to talk infrastructure. Then we had that shooting thing yesterday in the Garfield neighborhood of Pittsburgh, 81 weeks later. Like this is 81 months later. And again, we call 81 the ritual number, all these big rituals. But Garfield, the president, was assassinated in 1881. And again, RFK Jr. got in the election officially on the 95th day of the year. April 5th, he filed his paperwork. 144 days after the Superior General's birthday, when his father was killed in an election year, 68. Here, let me show you the other thing about Donald John Trump in 68. I mean, we've made this point a bunch of times, but Donald John Trump, 68, the year MLK was killed on 4/4, who's from Atlanta, as Trump gets his 4th indictment in the 4th state. In 68, RFK was killed, and he was pronounced dead at 1:44 in the morning, like how his brother, JFK, died 144 days from meeting with the Pope. Again, Jesuit order, 144:72. JFK met with the Pope on 7/2, a span of 144 days later, he's dead. RFK dead at 1:44 in the morning. Lincoln shot on 14/4 and blamed the Civil War on the Jesuit order. Dealey Plaza and Ambassador Hotel both equal 54, like Jesuit order. Ambassador Hotel also has the 153. All of these numbers relate to the Kennedy assassinations and also the other Kennedy deaths. Again, in this book right here, I have my chapter written from years ago on the Kennedy deaths. I mean, if we rewrote it today, it'd be a million times better. But still, there's a lot of information here about these same patterns for how long we've been talking about this. But remember, now RFK Jr. gets in the race 144 days after the Superior General's birthday, and then officially announces on Ignatius Loyola Day, the day that Ignatius Loyola became the first Superior General of the Jesuits. And the upcoming election in 2024 on November 5th, a special day to the Jesuits, Guy Fawkes Day, the day they tried to blow up British Parliament. Remember the 5th of November. That day is 144 days after Trump's birthday, the next election. And remember, before the 2020 election, Jesuit Georgetown, June 12th, simulated the election with the Transition Integrity Project. And the simulation says Biden wins in a narrow decision where Trump says he was cheated and refuses to step down, leading to deadly violence in America. Again, you guys, the same numbers over and over, but we were talking about that all day on August 9th, the day leaving 144 days left in the year. All day August 9th, because you had the Biden killer, some other stories, all these things that were alluding to history's past. And then that day ended with the assassination of an Ecuadorian presidential candidate. And again, Ecuador was established 46 years after America, like we're in the time of Joe Biden, number 46, elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday, when the last Catholic president, JFK, was killed at age 46. Catholic equals 35 and 46. JFK, number 35. Biden, number 46. But again, Ecuador was also established on May 24th, the 144th day of the year. And then the assassination's August 9th, the day leaving 144 days left in the year. And for the record, President Biden's also got the 144. And Hunter Biden has all the Jesuit marks on him, and why they keep doing all the little Jesuit rituals with him. People think that's the real story that's getting covered up because they're just buying into this narrative or that one. They're going with this narrative or that one. It's like, how about throw out both those narratives and look at the game that's being played? Like you live in Disney World. Like this is all a big script, a big joke to keep us invested while we're milked. And I mean, think about that, right? Think about that just from the Disney perspective. Disney is this thing that presents itself as something really nice, something very attractive and fun, and that you want to go to and give your money to. But there's a lot of stories out there about how this is not a nice company and how they've grown to be so big. And I mean, isn't that kind of like how government is too? It's always presenting itself as this thing to give your money to. It's going to keep you safe, make your life better, keep you the greatest nation there ever was. And then you realize Disney's not even, they're not even a national company. There's after profits all over the world. And then you realize America's not really like a national company. It's been bought and sold out. Has it always been sold out? Here's something to think about with the United States of America. Notice if you write out the United States of America, it equals 144. Run it the other way, it's 99. Again, it was named on September 9th, 1776. And if you drop the United States of America is 132. From the establishment of the Illuminati to the naming of the country is a span of 132 days, going with the 132 rooms in the White House. And again, what is the Illuminati? At the end of the day, it's Roman Catholic, which is 132, like Catholic Church. And again, they spread to England before they spread it here. Isn't it funny how it just all lines up day after day? Who could have done it? How about the people who gave us the calendar and the language, within the century of their establishment, the Jesuits who served the Roman Catholic Church that's worldwide? Where really are the roots of this new world order, and how could this have been achieved? Did the Catholic Church, did it have the motivation to rule the world? Well, it had stated that it wanted to rule the world. Why is the nation's capital the Jesuit stronghold since before the federal government was there? What's with all the Roman architecture? Why are we still subscribed to the religion of Rome? Again, let's close out with one last point. There was one number that made me realize gematria was no joke, and it was 74. And, back then I didn't even understand the reverse alphabetic order, so I didn't realize that Roman was 74. I didn't realize that. But I knew that English was 74, and gematria was 74, and energy was 74, and holiday. And then I noticed Jesus and cross and Messiah and gospel and parables were all 74, and Jewish and Jesus from Judea. And again, the story of Jesus is the gospel 74, and it's ultimately a story of killing, which is 74, and 3 of the first 5 presidents died on 7/4. But again, all roads lead to Rome. And you see how Tupac is 74 in reverse, like his rap alias Machiavelli, and then they put out that album on Guy Fawkes Day with him on the cross like Jesus. And again, Machiavelli. He wrote the book The Prince, based on Caesar Borgia, and Tupac died on Caesar Borgia's birthday. And then when Prince died in 2016, Tupac's mom died days later, and her death was announced on the real Machiavelli's birthday. Just think about it, you guys. Who's playing all these games? Who's keeping track of history, making everything work out perfectly in a numerical code? Tupac Shakur equals 139 and dies on 13/9, Caesar Borgia's birthday, and all that just lines up perfect. That wasn't an accident. Tupac grew up, went to a private school, was around, affluent people. That's not the story. Again, just a lot of stories that people have in their head aren't the reality. On this channel here, we're trying to break down the reality. What has been done to us? How big are the lies? How monumental are the lies? Here, in light of this being about planets and supposedly what's going on in space, if you guys don't know, shortly after the Jesuits, they started to discover this 7th, 8th, and 9th planet. Always the most distant planet was Saturn. If you don't know, the 7 days of the week are named after the 7 classical planets, which are the 7 things that move in the sky, which includes the sun and the moon, and then the 5 other planets that you can see with the naked eye, the furthest away being Saturn. But then after the Jesuits, now you got the 7th planet, the 8th planet. You got to love that one of them's Uranus. And I mean, you look at the legacy of the Catholic Church in the English language and what happens to little boys. Don't ever forget the George Floyd Illuminati joke with Waynell Sexton and the church settlement the week of the George Floyd news. So many things, man. If people don't know that one, what I'm talking about right now with George Floyd, again, George Floyd killed on the 225th day of his age. Right after the news breaks, the Catholic Church of Minnesota settles for 22.5 million for the sexual abuse of children. You know, sometime later, Derek Chauvin gets 22 and a half years in prison. But the thing that made it obvious those stories were tied together is then George Floyd's second grade teacher who remembered how he wanted to be a sweet little Supreme Court justice boy, how sweet he was. The teacher's name was Waynell Sexton. Anal sex, Uranus, again, one of the planets they gave us. And look at how the 7th, 8th, and 9th planets were discovered. They were discovered with mathematical equations, doing everything with numbers. Tesla has the quote, and it's funny how Tesla is connected to Elon Musk, and people see Trump and Elon Musk as the heroes. But when Tesla died, Trump's uncle was with the FBI and got to inventory his apartment. But Tesla has the quote about how science had been hijacked by these mathematical psychos that just wanted to make everything into numbers. Tesla also does have the quote about 369, so he's on both sides of that equation. But again, who has the capability to do this? Who's got the people of the world under the magical spell? Believe in their whoppers, their stories as they execute, one number ritual at a time. Here, just to tie it into yesterday's story, Steven Sato. He's got the 147. That's a presidential number. U.S. President 147. President of the United States 147. 147 windows on the White House. Steven Sato's 150. The number we talked about yesterday with Giuliani on his 150K bond. But that's an Illuminati number 150. Illuminati's 150, like the sun's 150 million kilometers away on average. And remember, yesterday it was Rudy Giuliani, again, $150 million bond. He's got the 150, 174 reshuffling of the 147. 174 is a big beast, New World Order number. Last year at the United Nations, or it was 2 years ago now, on the 174th day of the Jesuitic Nation year, they unveiled the beast statue at the United Nations. But yeah, if you don't know all the 60s, going back to Alvin Bragg and all these indictments, it's just been the nonstop 60s show, the names of the judges and everything. And there's just been so many jokes. It's just like how Trump has the court date set for May 20th next year, which is the anniversary of Ignatius of Loyola being shot with a cannonball. And it was Judge Cannon who set it for that date. And in the other year, Billy Cannon died on that date in the Joe Burrow, major ritual. Joe Burrow's become a huge superstar in the world of sports since the day he transferred to LSU on the day Billy Cannon died on Ignatius of Loyola Cannonball Day again. So he's got the lawyer SS. Reminds that the Nazis were modeled after the Jesuits, and Adolf Hitler's died in a big Jesuit ritual. Supposedly he died a suicide, but his body was never found. That's how they wrote in the history books when I was coming up. It's like, am I supposed to be? I was so annoyed with school. I mean, I didn't mind learning, but it was just like teachers didn't have answers for things they should have answers to, and you got to read that Christopher Columbus discovered a land where people lived, and all these things that don't make sense. Adolf Hitler committed suicide, but his body was never found. I mean, that's literally what they were teaching in curriculum when I was coming up in school. I was like, he committed suicide, but his body was never found? I mean, what? How does that pass the history book? I feel like if I wrote that down for my assignment, my teacher would give me a bad score because it doesn't make sense. But then she'll teach it to me because it's in the book. Isn't it funny how if it's in the book before you existed, if it's in the... That's the thing, as a story grows older, it gains authority. The older a story is, the more authority it gains. That's why the Bible's got so much authority with so many people. Got to be true. It's been around for 2,000 years. Well, not really, but supposedly the story's that old. At least the New Testament part is. The Old Testament's way older. All right, let me put my eyes on the chat. I think I got all the main points out here about Pluto demotion day, where Pluto came in with the discovery of the planet and the Disney film that's about prison and it being the 21st film and where that fits in with Trump being in trouble for things that happened in 21 and just how big of a joke is this? Is it as big of a joke as when Pluto got demoted 76 years after it was made a planet, the year of the Disney film of Pluto? You know. All right. Is there any other great observations from the chat? Let's see. I can't take a question about 74 and 47 seriously, especially when your statement is incorrect. I mean, I literally talked about the number in this video. Lots of work on 74 and 47. Again, you guys want to get caught up on gematria and really understand it. You want to help support the work, help the work grow at my website under the ebooks drop down menu or tab, depending on if you're on a cell phone or computer. You can buy the books here. Huge books. That green book is this one. There's a lot of information in there, and the number games book's about half as big as that. And it's weird. I can't find a single copy of number games in my house right now. I don't know how that happened. Must have given it away and not even noticed. But yeah, these are the digital instant download versions of the book. They're $5 each, and you can learn a whole lot about 74 and 47 in both of them. So. All right, let me see. You know, Irish, I honestly cannot remember if I did or not. I might very well have. I definitely talked to him for a long time about it. To get a physical copy of Letters and Numbers, like the only way to ever do it is to take the ebook and send the ebook file to a website called lulu.com, lulu.com, and they'll print it. And you can get it like this with no cover, cheaper, or you can design your own cover. But yeah, they'll print it into a book for you, just like that. And number games, of course, you can order at most places. You can get the physical version of number games if you just search for it. If you search number games, Zachary Hubbard, that's me, you'll find the book. So let's make sure that's true. Let's try it out. Zachary Hubbard number games. Yeah, it comes up on different bookstores. Of course, right at the top is the one cutting down the forest. But yeah, it has a good review, and it'd be higher if it wasn't for the trolls. Like you'll see the negative reviews are like completely false. It's like, okay, that's not even true. Okay, that's also false. People just wrote blatantly false statements. All right. Anyway, I don't see a whole lot of additional contributions in the chat. Yeah, that's true about Sirius and Pentagram. Indeed, going with the whole 5-pointed star thing. All right, we'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. Again, thank you to everyone who supports the work. And until next time.